Johanna and Laura, thank you especially for all your support, even through my panicked emails mid-November with subject lines like, help, election results, arrow, thesis change, question mark, exclamation point. This novel, The Bones That Bind Us, poured out of me over the next several months in a frenzied expression of love and frustration. It felt as though Zane was screaming for a story to be let out, a story that, at its surface level, is about repaying his shady loan for his graduate school's application fee and falling in love with his best friend. Deeper, though, it is about how a society already living in fear can be easily controlled by its government. For context, centuries ago, the elves lost the Dead Wars, and the practice of using animal and tearling bones as a binding material in rituals was forbidden. I've changed which chapter to read about 7 times since yesterday, but I finally settled on chapter 9. We'll start with the epigraph and plunge right into some butchered attempts at character accents, if you're ready. New jobs appeared after the treaty was signed. Grave diggers were in high demand to desecrate the resting spots of the previously deceased. Forges were then converted to crematoriums, and the skies were black with smoke for months while the backlog of remains was dealt with. From the Journal of Winsome Merling Mingle III. I thought your shift was never going to end. Ready to stretch your final ritual knowledge? We need to get some binds from the apothecary. Shh, Zane whispers. There are still a couple workers closing up. Let's pretend we're working late. Here, I brought these for you two. He pulls 2 green aprons from behind his back for them, borrowed from his coworkers' cubes behind the front desk. Lucy and Quell put them on obediently, and Zane nods with approval. They look well enough like they belong here, as long as they don't run into someone who actually makes the hiring calls like High Mage Yestern. They should be in the clear. Fighting the urge to sneak, Zane leads Lucy and Quell down the spiral staircase to the main floor. Don't fidget with the apron strings, he hisses back at Lucy, catching her during his 7th glance back. I think your craning neck will be more of a giveaway than anything I'm doing. I could excuse that as him being unable to keep his eyes off me, Quell offers, and Zane misses the last step and stumbles onto the main floor, barely catching himself with the railing. That would work, Lucy agrees. Only because that apron does not look good on you, Quell, Zane chokes back. Lies, Quell says. Zane can hear the grin in his voice. He's definitely lying, Lucy agrees. Of course, this is what gets them into agreement. Zane almost wishes they'd go back to bickering. He did not sign up for this 2-against-1 attack. Before they can open a single drawer, Packles bustles around the corner of a shelf and runs straight into Quell, too busy trying to untangle her saffron apron strings to watch where she's going. Her rosebud lips pucker with a surprised, "Oh, sorry to startle you," Quell says. Please, I don't get startled, clearly. She winks at Quell. Zane can't help but feel a tug of something rotten deep in his stomach. After all, who wouldn't like to be winked at by her, a near goddess of the harvest season, forged by steel scythes and bountiful responsibilities? He doesn't know where this jealousy is coming from. V had once asked if Zane could date Laurel Packles so that he and Leaf could be brothers, but Zane had brushed him off. He didn't have time to notice feelings for anyone, much less go on dates. Still, something about Packles and Quell makes his stomach ache. Zane is knocked out of his reverie when Aster Quell's chuckle descends into a wheezing fit. Quell holds up a finger and turns away from them as he rummages through his bag for another vial of medicine. He's fine, Lucy supplies. Clearly, Packles repeats, her voice buttery soft. She twists her attention away from Quell's shaking back. What were you all doing here so late at night? I know V and Leaf have a sleepover tonight to work on that school project together at our house, but still, Rathgeiber, I assumed you'd be catching up on sleep or something. She frowns. And why are you all wearing aprons? I knew we'd look weird wearing these, Lucy says. She rocks back on her heels and tugs at the apron as though it's a stubborn thistle pricking her side. Zane scrunches his face. What? You didn't say... Lucy continues as though Zane wasn't speaking. Zane's been showing us the ropes of being a hull worker. Archivist apprentice, Zane supplies. Lucy snaps her fingers. Yes, that. But honestly, I don't think green is really my color. she says, gesturing downward with her green-tinged fingers at the layers of green clothing on her body. Saffron, on the other hand, is quite striking. Lucy wraps one arm around Packles and leads her away from Zane and Quell, asking questions about her job while also complimenting her appearance and professional prowess. Quell turns back to Zane, and a drop of cyan liquid quivers on the edge of his nostril. You didn't quite get it all, Zane says, and he itches at the corner of his own nostril to show where. Quell sniffs hard as he swipes a finger under his nose. Better? Zane nods. I feel like I should be asking you that, though. Stairs, Quell says. Let's get what we came for, yeah? Unlike the last time Zane raided the apothecary, now he knows exactly where the rubber is kept. He strides for the cabinet and rummages through the jars, Quell peering over his shoulder. Found it. How do you know it would be here? There are no labels on the doors. I had Zane struggles to open the jar, the cork pushed in too tight. Incident a couple days ago? He tugs on the cork stopper again. I don't think I needed this much force last time. Frustration heating his face, he tries using his arm inside to get a better hold of the jar. Rah, he mutters. Without prompting, Quell takes the jar from Zane. With a simple twist, the cork stopper comes loose with a soft pop. A small smile plays at Quell's lips as Zane takes the jar back from him. Don't, Zane warns. I didn't say anything. I loosened it for you. Of course, Quell says, and though he ducks his head to hide his expression, Zane still spots the toothy grin. Asshole, Zane mutters as he rips some of the rubber off the main ball. You're welcome. It's strange having someone notice when he needs help, much less taking the step to help without being asked. Zane usually tries to shield himself from that kind of vulnerability, but Quell moved past his defenses so effortlessly without even asking permission. Thank you, Zane says, halting and quiet. It tastes like wonder on his tongue, both light and heavy at the same time. He pushes the cork topper back on the jar right as Lucy's voice carries from the next row of shelves over. There's truly so much to learn here. By the time they round the corner, the jar is back in place and two small pieces, no larger than a baby's tooth, of the binding agent are stuffed in Zane's pocket. He jumps into conversation with Quell to make it seem that history is all they've been discussing while waiting for the young woman to return. And that's when we decided to make the records impervious to fire. To Quell's credit, he doesn't blink at the sudden partial history lesson, instead asking, did you also protect against water at the same time, or was that a different decision? See, Lucy cuts in. I think working in the apothecary would be so much more interesting personally than learning about the history of preservation efforts. Better company, too. Packles grins, a warm gesture that reveals her high bone structure beneath her rounded cheeks. Personally, I think exploring the world to find new materials for rituals would be ideal, but this is safer and more stable, you know? If you're really interested, I could put in a word with High Mage Yestern. We're always in need of another hand here. Good to know. I'll give it some thought and get back to you, yeah? Sure, sounds good. Even if you take a while, I'm sure we'll be able to fit you in somewhere. And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Lucy hesitates, a strange look on her face. Actually, I do have one question. Do you deal with the ashes as an apothecary worker? The grin melts off Packle's face, and the temperature in the hall drops. Most of us avoid it. There's a lot of pressure from the council about it for obvious reasons, and I already carry enough stress from helping my parents care for my 5 siblings. That makes sense, Lucy says, and her voice is quieter than Zane's ever heard it. It sends a chill down his back. I don't know how I'd feel about that. Packles leans in conspiratorially. If I'm being completely honest, I think that's why we're always hurting for more workers. Some folks don't even have the stomach to be near the columbarium. She stomps on the wood floor panel for emphasis, and Zane shivers when he hears the hidden jars rattle beneath the board like the music of the dead. Lucy sucks in a breath and turns away. Well, we better get going. There's a lot more of the hall to cover. Packles nods. I'm about to head out myself. I'll see you later, Rathgriber. Good luck, Quell, Lucy. The chill lingers, still prickling Zane's neck by the time they reach their normal hangout spot in the stacks. Lucy's mannerisms don't help, her head downcast and feet trudging with every step. Zane clears his throat. Are you okay, Lucy? I'm fine. It's okay if you were freaked out by the ashes. Quell chimes in, yeah, we won't judge you. I'm not freaked out. Come on, let's fix these chairs. Zane swallows his reprimand. From experience with his little brother, he knows that words and feelings have a way of coming out when they need to, and there's no forcing them out early. Sure, Lucy. Between him and Quell, they make short work of drawing the 3 ritual circles in the walkway between the shelves. In the center circle, Quell places the shrunken chairs, and then Zane sets a piece of rubber in the middle circle at both the cardinal and opposite points. Lucy chews on the inside of her cheek and watches from the sidelines. Though all elves are born with an arcanic connection to the material realm, most only learn basic rituals like mending or purifying for everyday purposes, unlike the acolytes studying at the tower. Better to leave it to the experts. Quell draws the sigil at the cardinal point with quick, focused strokes of his stylus, and he leans back onto his heels to admire it. The sigil, similar to a 4-pointed star, but with 2 straight lines and 2 curves, stands for elasticity, the ability to return to an original shape. Together, Quell asks, holding out his hand. They say it's easier on the heart. Zane hesitates. They've only tried solo rituals and practical. Then again, if anyone can do it right on the first try, it's them. The earnest, open expression on Quell's face seals Zane's decision. He grasps Quell's hand firmly and tugs him to a stand. Quell digs his matchbook out of his pocket, and Zane is surprised to see that it's plain, like his. Still holding hands, they align themselves so the cardinal point lines between them. Suddenly self-conscious, Zane wonders if his palm feels hot or sweaty, especially in comparison to Quell's cold one. Is that a winter elf condition or a respiratory illness condition? Quell says, gesturing with the matchbook for Zane to hold it for him. He strikes the match, and a slight squeeze of Zane's fingers is the only indication that Quell feels any pain from the flame before he drops the match onto the sigil. When the tingling arcanic sensations reach Zane, he can feel the entire pathway up Quell's arm, all the way to his heart. It beats as fast as Zane's, filling the empty space between his own beats, like a song that's never quite felt complete until now. And part of him wants to let go, if only to remind himself where he ends and Quell begins. Zane doesn't move, though, not until the burning ritual materials shine bright enough to hurt his eyes. And even then, he turns inward, towards Quell. He feels Quell copy his movement, and they stay that way with their hands touching until the sensation of the arcana dissipates, and Zane is only himself once again. When he opens his eyes, he's only a breath away from Quell. Close enough to notice the dark circles under his white lashes, like a dusting of snow upon mountain slate. Close enough to have nowhere to hide when those lashes lift, when those piercing blue eyes focus on him. Quell doesn't seem unsettled by Zane's stare, and perhaps that disorients Zane even further. His heart pounds uneven in his chest, as though it doesn't remember the rhythm on its own anymore. That was... Yeah, Zane says, but even that one-word admission feels too big, too much, too soon. Zane drops Quell's hand and steps away. Behind them, Lucy asks, is it over? Can I look now? Quell clears his throat with a low, gravelly sound, but doesn't respond. Is that a yes? You can look, Lucy, Zane says. When she turns, her eyebrows shoot up. Wow, your face is really red. Was the fire that hot? She tilts her head, studying Quell. Oh, but you're not flushed at all. Zane grumbles, astute observations as ever, and he shuffles past Quell to move one of the now normal-sized chairs out of the ritual circle. Lucy's wrong, though. There's a faint blush dancing up Quell's ears, and Zane gets the distinct feeling it's because of him. Thank you.